Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Host of the Chris Stigall Show.
So let's bring in talk radio host Chris Stigall.
Also, his podcast is a must-listen every day. Chris Stigall Show podcast.
And host of the Chris Stigall Show.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
It's Monday, the 10th day of June, and I thank you so much for downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Coming up today, there was quite a turn of events in the EU, and I know that that's a weird place to jump off, but we'll unpack it a little bit. To be perfectly clear with you, I don't know European elections, so I'm not going to get in the weeds about it, but it is an interesting development. It continues to baffle me and sort of amaze me in a lot of ways that Democrats simultaneously, while the Europeans seem to be rising up, Democrats seem to be running from attacking Trump. So we'll unpack some of that as well. This Caitlyn Clark story, not something I typically would talk about here, but it's almost undeniable that she's not only a force of nature, but I'm seeing her everywhere in my social media feed now, so we'll talk about that. A follow-up to Friday's conversation with Kyle Seraphin. I got a lot of response from that and social media play all weekend long, so we'll unpack some of that. And lots of other headlines. John Fetterman goes on Bill Maher's show, which is always kind of interesting. And a reminder about John Fetterman, by the way, and where things stand with Democrats. So lots to unpack today. Thanks for being here and choosing the show to get your week started. Grateful to you, and grateful to John Ruhlman for making this show possible. You know, he's our title sponsor, and the most important thing about his sponsorship is that he saves you money on health insurance. Now, if you buy your own health insurance, you got to call John, because you don't know what your insurance covers necessarily, do you? If you don't have somebody that's really sitting down and talking turkey with you about what does this actually cover, if you need health insurance, really need it, like hospitalization, heaven forbid, or surgery or something, does your insurance fully cover it? John will tell you. And John knows 80 different private health insurers to get you better rates, very likely better rates, like 30 to 60% better than what you're paying right now. Small business owners, you've got to consult with John to save some money if you're providing health insurance for your employees. If you are tight on money, and a lot of us are right now, got to provide health insurance for your family. Maybe you're a single parent, or maybe you got to buy your own health insurance because work doesn't provide it or whatever. Please call John. Get affordable, full coverage. Seniors, same deal. You got to buy a supplemental health insurance plan with your Medicare. Call him. Just take a couple of minutes and run the numbers. I think you'll be delighted at the money you'll save. Some of my friends have saved thousands, literally thousands a month, by calling John Ruhlman. You can go to usmedicalplan.com, usmedicalplan.com, or 877-410-4321. The reason I'm starting with this is because I think a lot of you who do follow the news regularly think that this is a harbinger of things to come for us here. Biden is going to dissolve congressional elections or some such thing, and he's taking notes. Fast Eddie, I'm not kidding. You're laughing at me in there. This is what a lot of people think is coming. Uh-oh. They're taking notes of what Macron is doing. He's dissolved something, and that's what's going to come this November. Trump's going to win, and they're going to dissolve something, and Biden will be in perpetual power. This is where people's heads are going, so I'm trying to stave it off now.
Well, that's why I'm proud to be an American, Chris, because that will not happen. Our Constitution, and we do have 3 co-equal branches of government to stop that from happening. But as I understand it, in France, this is welcomed by, was it Marine Le Pen, the main opposition?
Marine Le Pen's, yeah. You said she welcomes this.
She says, I'm looking at CNN, speaking after Macron's announcement, we are ready to rebuild the country, ready to defend the interests of the French, and ready to put an end to mass immigration. So it looks like this happened in 1997 as well. So as part of the Constitution in France, Macron can do this.
Well, that's what I thought. It's not an illegal function. It's a rare function, but not an illegal one. Accurate?
Accurate, yes.
So I'll just read to you what's happened, and then we'll unpack this a little bit. Right-wing parties. So immediately, all you need to know is everybody's calling this far-right and right-wing, which means not globalist, not leftist. All right? So that we'll just start there and understand that all American and international media are calling this a problematic right-wing win. As the rest of us read it, normalcy is returning. Non-globalism is returning. People who have a pride in country, the French countrymen have decided, you know what, we're tired of globalists wrecking our proud French heritage and our country. We're going to try to take it back. So right-wing parties put on a show of strength in European Union elections. So that's number one. I don't really have a working understanding, because I don't care to, of the European Union. I don't really understand how member nations of the EU work and vote, but that's what this is about. So this Marine Le Pen party has gained strength in an election in European Union elections. This has prompted French President Emmanuel Macron. This is the poor guy that was left shaking the veterans' hands at D-Day over the weekend all by himself because the husk had to waddle off with the visiting angel. Macron has called an end to, he's called parliamentary elections, prompting French President Macron to call parliamentary elections, underscoring German Chancellor Schlotz's position, lagging behind two rival parties. Sunday's results still appeared to leave the mainstream pro-EU parties with a lock on power in Brussels. The center-right EU political grouping that now leads the bloc looked set to win the most seats in the European Parliament, boosting European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's hopes of keeping her job for a second term. I don't know what any of this means. I really don't, folks. I'm not being cute here. I'm a reasonably smart person, and I don't understand this. I don't know what the EU is. I know we're not a part of it, thank goodness. Surprised we're not. Surprised Biden hasn't tried to figure out how to make us part of the European Union. France's far-right opposition party, it's called National Rally. And so National Rally looked set to be among the Europe's largest winners. Marine Le Pen's party appeared on target to become the largest single party in the European Parliament. Projections based on early ballot counts on Sunday evening suggested National Rally, that's Le Pen's party, has gained roughly 31% of the vote. That's twice the support for Macron and his party. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Fast Eddie, there is some function back home in France. Again, we're talking about an EU election. So the European Union is now, if everything were to stand, is now being run by conservatives. And the European Union went, holy crap, Macron, you got to do something about it. And so Macron said, I have a rare function in my constitution that will allow me to do it. Ha, ha, ha. And so he went home and said, we're going to vote on this again, and we're going to do it in Parliament. Have I got that about right?
I believe so. And it would be participation in the EU compared to the actual French government. So the EU elections were the ones that happened. Now we're talking about the French Parliament is what he's holding elections for, is how I read it.
So basically he's saying all those people that voted in the EU elections, they don't count. We're going to bring it home to our Parliament and let them have a say, or some such. Now, it's the members of Parliament. It's not the citizens of France. Is that true? That I don't know either. See, I don't know these things. I'm sorry, folks. I don't mean to bring it up, other than I just know it's animated a lot of people. I saw this in my feed over and over and over again is the only reason I'm trying to walk through this. And Eddie and I are not international diplomats, so we're doing our best to sort through this. I don't mean to put you on the spot because I don't know any more about this than you do, Eddie.
No, I mean, from what I'm reading, I mean, this is a good development in Europe. It seems like there's some kind of reckoning coming, and
it's huge, but this is it's got everybody on edge here because they think that this is going to happen here now. Everyone's watching this here going, uh-oh, well, okay, so this is what's going to happen. It's going to be a huge Trump uprising here in the United States, and then some functionary's going to come in and scrub it all. Say we got to have a redo or some such.
Oh, Chris, again, thank God we are America. We have no union that we have to worry about other than ourselves.
In Germany, the Prime Minister, Schlotz. If you'd paid me $1 million, I couldn't have told you who the Prime Minister of Germany is, but I love that his last name is Schlotz. Apparently, his Socialist Democrat Party also got an ass kicking yesterday in this EU election. I don't know. Who are the people that vote in the EU elections? See, I know you don't know this either. I have no idea. Who are they? I don't know where these people come from, but I'm sure there's some of you in this audience who know and could come and school me about it. But anyway, according to national exit polls, Schlotz and his Socialist Democrat Party in the EU elections, they were trailing big time. The clear winner, Germany's center-right. Uh-oh. Folks, I'm not going to bore you anymore with this other than to say what is happening, it appears, is that within the EU, at least as France and Germany are concerned, Macron and Schlotz got their proverbial butts kicked by conservatives. And now they're trying to figure out, well, what do? We can't have the European Union run by a bunch of conservatives. And so they got some sort of gimmickry where they can go back home and have their parliament, I think, install their own puppets or some such thing. And I don't know. No, I don't think it's a harbinger of things. I don't think we need to despair and get all depressed. But it is true that it's, whether it's here or whether it's there, it is 100% true that globalism is a real thing. The European Union consolidating power is a real thing. Trump remains a threat to that. The citizens of France and Germany remain a threat to that. The people, when speaking, remain a threat to organized global government. And we know this. We've known this for a long time. We certainly saw this during the WHO and COVID. So, look, I'll watch it. If I learn more that I think is relevant, I will bring it to your attention. But that's the nut of it right now. Happy anniversary to my wife. You know, next year's the big one, Fast Eddie. 24 years of marriage today. Next year's 25. And I realized over dinner this weekend that I really am going to have to start thinking harder about what 25 means. 24, you can get away with dinner and, hey, congratulations on 24. Next year, I got to do something I got to step it up a little bit. 25's a nice round number, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what is that? The silver anniversary, the 25, I think.
I don't remember what. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a big one though. Will all the kids be out of the house by then?
No, but that is one thing that I think she said she wants to do. Interestingly, she said she would like to do something with all the kids for the 25th.
Wow,
which kind of surprised me. She said she thought maybe a trip with just the kids would be cool, which I didn't see coming. But that's what she thought she wants to do. So anyway,
have you done that since COVID? Have you gone on a trip with the entire family?
No, we have not. No.
Okay.
We're about to go to Alaska with our daughter Anna and our niece, one of her great friends. But no, we have not taken a family trip. So maybe that's okay. That's what I'll work on. Anyway, happy anniversary to my lovely wife Christine. 24 years today. It's been my pleasure and honor to talk about Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, just off the Blue Route, as my dentist and friend of over 12 years now. But now he has two brand new associates, his daughter Alexa and Dr. Geddes. Tell him about him, Bob.
Yeah, it's really a thrill for me to have both the dentists, my daughter and Dr. Jared Geddes. One of the things that I love about them both is when they don't have a patient in their chair, they're in my room watching what I do and trying to learn from me. And we hear enough about the new generation and they think they know everything and they don't want to work. And I've got two dentists who are really, really want to learn and really, really willing to work hard. And I enjoy learning from them. They brought some new skills and some new technologies to our office that will be great benefits to our patients. And so, if anything, I think that having them both there is going to expand and lengthen my career as opposed to shorten my career.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. Did you see Trump rallying in California over the weekend? They say that he has raised millions of dollars in California. Wow. Trump raises millions of dollars in Newport Beach and Beverly Hills. I sent to my son yesterday from his stump speech that he's going to get rid of the taxes on people who earn tips. I don't know if you saw that or not, but this is a really sexy and interesting line that was dropped in this rally. You make tips out there? I'm going to get rid of taxing tips, people who earn tips. I knew this would excite my son. You know, he's a waiter. So I said it to him, and I said, what do you think about this? And my son, pretty sharp, first thing he asked was, can he do that? I said, well, no, to be fair, he can't do it alone. He will advocate for it, though. I said, what do you think the reaction would be? He said, people would be very excited about it, young people in particular. I said, right. And so that's the point. Do you think it's a smart line to drop? And he said, oh, yeah. So this is the kind of thing that you typically don't see smart. I mean, there used to be smart fiscal Republicans out there. There aren't many smart Republicans anymore. You certainly don't see them on the national stage. This is smart. And frankly, it doesn't matter whether he can actually get it across the finish line in Congress, because he's floated the idea. He said, you get the banishing of taxes on tips to my desk, and I will sign it. So what's that do? This is a classic Democrat trick. Republicans suck at this. That's what makes Trump so special, is he's one of the rare Republicans that play the Democrats' game. He floats these things that have great populist support. And people go, well, damn straight, I work for tips. I'm tired of paying taxes on tips. That's not fair. And he says, I agree, and I'm going to get rid of them. Elect me. And then some people like my son will say, but you can't do that by yourself, can you? And he says, no, as a matter of fact, now that you ask, I can't. I'd sign it, though, if it came to my desk. You know who you got to lean on to get that done? Congress. So you know what he's done? What Donald Trump has done in floating something like that? He's given every person running for the House of Representatives something to talk about. Something to talk about on a granular level, on a micro level, in every district across the country. All 435 House seats are up this fall. Every single current incumbent or someone challenging an incumbent can now talk about this. I personally will join forces with Donald Trump, and I will eradicate taxes on tips. Any of you who wait tables or serve or make tips, I will sign off on legislation to do away with taxing your tip money. Join me. We'll pass it. We'll get it to the president's desk, and he promises that's one of the first things he'll do. That's a stroke of genius, Fast Eddie. This is outside the box thinking. This is the kind of thing I like seeing. This is offense, offense, offense. You know what I mean?
I've never seen that, turning it around and forcing Congress to do it from a Republican. Very well done.
Never happens. So this is a really exciting development. Again, can it happen? I mean, you have to have Republicans who agree. And the way Republicans spend anymore, I don't know too many Republicans that are supportive, but nevertheless, a smart play. Trump's popularity in battleground states keeps climbing following his conviction. This from Sarah Arnold over at Town Hall. Heading into the weekend, according to a new Quinnipiac University poll, Trump holds an average advantage over Biden, 49-44, in a head-to-head matchup of the critical battleground states. In fact, most every poll seems to suggest that post-conviction, nothing much has changed. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time on this last week, and it's one thing that I really do want to come back to. I set it aside because I intended to come back and visit it again, and I loved it. It was from The Hill last week, and here's the headline: Vulnerable Democrats steer away from focusing on Trump convictions. So for those of you, and particularly those never-Trumpers inside our own ranks, 34 counts guilty. This is going to kill us. This is going to cost us. Well, as it turns out, not only does it seem to not be moving the needle out there for most people, Democrats in purple states are kind of frightened by him, and they aren't bringing it up. Included in that count, what about Bob Casey running for Senate again, the incumbent from Pennsylvania? Vulnerable Democrats steering away from talking about Donald Trump's bombshell conviction on 34 felony charges. Frontline Democrats representing battleground districts and states where trust in the criminal justice system is low and Trump's legal woes have only invigorated his base of support. Democrats are warning that a focus on the guilty verdicts in New York could backfire. Mary Peltola from Alaska, frontline Democrat, they call her. I try to stay away from anything that isn't a uniting topic, she said. And you're running as a Democrat? Yeah, the party of unity, the Democrat Party, please. party of anti-Semites. Did you see another gazillion of them gathered in front of the White House to support Hamas over the weekend? Yeah, real party of unity. I'm sorry, I'm kind of tickled by all the news today, actually. The responses on lawmakers' first day back in the Capitol last week since the Trump verdict highlight both Trump's extraordinary faculty for surviving scandal and the delicate dance Democrats are attempting in their approach to his felony convictions, particularly on the thorny question of whether a major party's presidential nominee should serve time in prison. On one hand, the Democrat response is a no-brainer. They've been unified throughout the trial in saying they trust the judicial system and would respect the outcome, and that no one is above the law, not even a former president. And now that Trump has been convicted, they're deferring to the justice system once more. Tammy Baldwin, Democrat, Wisconsin. That's for somebody else to decide when asked if Trump should go to jail. What about Bob Casey, Pennsylvania? Same deal. Should Trump go to jail? Oh, that's up to the judge, says what about Bob Casey? Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, senators hanging on to power. Oh, I don't have anything to say about Trump going to prison. The judicial system and whatnot. I'm loath to get involved. Ladies and gentlemen, this is amazing. I mean, really, if you back away and think about it, this is extraordinary. It's extraordinary we're here. The raid on Mar-a-Lago. Oh, by the way, that reminds me. I'm not going to lose my place. This story last week, Kyle Seraphin, the former FBI agent who got upset with me because Julie Kelly and I were talking about him on the show. He's been very critical of Julie Kelly's reporting on the Mar-a-Lago raid. I then talked with Julie about this criticism from Kyle Seraphin, the former federal agent, now turned whistleblower. I said, well, what's going on there, Julie? And she sort of floated out there. I guess maybe not even floated. She said, I guess we now have to wonder if he's not an active, still contributing Fed. Is basically what she said. His behavior's so out of whack and strange. As a whistleblower and former Fed, I guess we have to start entertaining the possibility that he's still a Fed. Well, this lit heads on fire. Unbeknownst to me, I'm just sitting here minding my own business. We've talked to Julie for years and years. She's been a friend of the show, and her reporting on January 6th and these court cases of Trump's, she's been covering them extensively. No, she is not a reporter by training. No, she is not an attorney. Julie is a citizen, and she's doing citizen journalism. And this is what really irks a lot of folks, that she's just a mom and a wife who writes very well and started working at, it doesn't matter where she was. But when I first met her, she wasn't even doing what she's doing. Then she went independent because she was building such a following. And frankly, she's been able to monetize it to such a degree that now she's able to travel. And she literally she's built a career now traveling to these different court venues and reporting on them and talking to J6 families. She was this is how impressive her resume is. She went from writing, I think she said global warming once upon a time. We used to talk to her about stuff like that. She parlayed that into a career that got so explosively popular. The former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, granted her access to the January 6th surveillance tapes, if you remember that, which led to, Tucker highlighting her and Dan Bongino highlighting her. So Julie quickly just grew and grew and grew, and she's always been great to this show. And so because her microphone has grown to such a degree, and then she writes this story about Mar-a-Lago being raided, and inside the paperwork, the warrant to raid Mar-a-Lago is use of force guidelines. And she uncovers this and then writes a story and says, can you believe that the FBI was preparing to storm into Mar-a-Lago and use of force was something they were prepared to implement if necessary? There was contingency in there in case they crossed paths with Secret Service or whatever. Everyone thought this exceptional, yours truly included. Every normal person thinks it's exceptional that the FBI had a discussion about raiding a former president's home to begin with. And then that use of force language was in the warrant is even more jarring. Well, along comes Kyle Seraphin, this former federal agent, now whistleblower. And for some inexplicable reason, he gets very, very, very upset. And you can go back and listen to this conversation from Friday's show if you'd like. It's podcast. And it got lots and lots of attention over the weekend, Fast Eddie. And none of it good for Mr. Seraphin, I'll just say. Because I spent a half an hour solid with Mr. Seraphin after he got very upset that Julie suggested he's a Fed. But Mr. Seraphin kept insisting publicly that Julie was irresponsible, and he kept ratcheting up his attacks on Julie for being irresponsible, and that she's got a middling intellect, and that she's a nobody, and she's going to flame out, and this irresponsible, reckless reporting has to be corrected. This is standard operating procedure. This is boilerplate language. Every federal warrant that's issued has this same language in it. I had Mr. Seraphin on Friday, and I said, well, I understand that's your argument. And he kept making that argument to me, and I said, but I keep coming back to the same centerpiece. This is raiding a president's home. This is not just any run-of-the-mill federal crime you're investigating here. This is a president. Does it really not warrant a little more thought than boilerplate language? You know, so we went around and around and around. It never went anywhere, but the vast majority of you came away from that conversation, and I would just say, I'm not saying there was none, but it was like 98 to 2% of you who, I'll just say that, I'm trying to be fair to Mr. Seraphin because I don't know the man, but if that was meant to, deflect criticism from him or support what he was saying in criticism of Julie, I don't think it worked, Fast Eddie. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. I don't think anybody was convinced because, I liken it to, this is going way back. We had an engineer years and years and years ago that whenever I had a technical problem, he would write these long emails to try and explain the actual problem. And it would always come back around to, it's just like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm doing. Just like, okay, well, that doesn't fix the problem. Like Mr. Seraphin, to be respectful toward him, but that's kind of what it sounded like when you were asking him the questions last week. He's explaining a lot. No, this is boilerplate. It's just like, okay, well, can we at least get to step one, which is raiding a former president's home?
Yeah.
Is that like exceptional in news? Like have you ever heard of this before? Can we come back to step one?
Yeah,
he just couldn't do it.
The word boilerplate and raid on a president's home should never appear in the same sentence.
Right.
Exactly. That's what I kept trying to say, and he didn't seem to want to hear that. He didn't support a raid on Donald Trump's home. To be fair to him, he didn't support that, but he was very hung up on, this is just what the feds do when they storm someone's home. And I kept saying, this isn't someone, this is the president. But whatever, neither here nor there. Nick Searcy jumps in from the back of the bar. Filmmaker and actor Nick Searcy throws a haymaker over the weekend and now piles on Kyle Seraphin. He's pals with Julie. Apparently both Julie and Kyle are in his new film that we just interviewed him over. I didn't know that. And I forget the name of the film, but we'll have Nick back on to talk about it. Nick reached out to me over the weekend and he said, I'm sending you a screener of my film so that you can see I'm not just anti-Kyle for the sake of being anti-Kyle. Something's happened to him. And Nick is now just, he's dogpiling on Kyle Seraphin. Again, Julie and Kyle are both in his film, and he thinks Kyle's got a screw loose.
Wow.
For what it's worth.
The film, it was The War on Truth. It hasn't even been out a month. It came out May 17th.
The War on Truth. All right. Yeah, you can get that now because he did come on and talk about it. But yeah, so one of the guys featured in his film to support his storyline, he's now kind of pile driving over his behavior against Julie. So you can go back and listen. But anyway, my point is this interview, this conversation with Kyle just got sent all over the place. I would imagine, I haven't seen the numbers yet, but I've got to believe it's one of the most listened to and downloaded podcasts we've done yet. And my point in bringing this story up is, along with this story about Democrats not wanting to talk about Trump convictions, think about the exceptional place we are today. You had a former president's home raided and then 34 counts against him and found guilty on all 34 counts. And at this hour, There are Democrats in purple states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania that don't want to touch it. They don't want to talk about it at all. Like, that's their play. The Democrats' play is Trump. That's all they have. What else do they talk about then? So if you have vulnerable Democrats who say, they don't want to talk about Trump because they know that's poking the tiger. They know the electorate out there. I mean, this EU stuff, it's hilarious. It's like it's happening all over the world. COVID woke a lot of populations up, not just ours. So I'm not being a Pollyanna guy about it. I'm not making predictions. I'm not suggesting we shouldn't all stay locked in and focused and work hard, and I'm not promising or predicting anything. But I think this is going to be the first kind of national election where people are really, we had midterms, I know. Everybody says midterms are nothing, folks. People don't vote in midterms, all right? People barely vote in presidentials, but people don't vote in midterms. So don't tell me 2022. This is a different game. This is really the first referendum election of national leaders that we've had, and I think those kids over there in the EU have had. And it's not going well. There's an uprising happening. And Democrats are freaked. So we probably shouldn't poke and attack the guy that everybody seems to be standing with. What then do we talk about? The border? Oh, damn, no. The economy? No. Israel? Probably not. What do you talk about if you're a Democrat? What do you celebrate? You're a vulnerable Democrat, and now you're running from even Trump being convicted? That tells you a lot about where Democrats are and the trouble they're in. You know, our friends at Gulag America, who have been great sponsors of this show, founding members of the Harump Society, they like to say their catchphrase, it's not our wish, it's our warning. What exactly does that mean, you might ask? Well, look no further than the indefinite incarceration of Capitol protesters, attacks on the integrity of Supreme Court justices, not to mention a certain recent New York court verdict, 34 counts. Then you begin to understand. But never fear. Gulag America is here with the apparel that you need to express your distress, your frustration, like an inverted U.S. flag shirt or their original Banana Republic shirt, which is hilarious, or their exclusive J6er shirt that reads, "Free the Hostages." And it might just look a bit familiar to you Philly sports fans in particular. So please, head over to gulagamerica.com and take advantage of their pre-inflation, pre-Brandon pricing. Just $24 for standard T-shirts all year long. And take an additional 10% off your entire order when you use my promo code CHRIS10. That's CHRIS10. That's how you let them know you listen to the show, which I appreciate, but more importantly, that's how you get the great discount at checkout. gulagamerica.com, CHRIS10. Chris10 is your promo code when you shop. It's Gulag America, where they say, and now you know why, it's not our wish, but it is our warning. I'm going to say something else. Oh, boy. Do I say it? Yeah, I'll say it. What the hell? What do I care? Caitlyn Clark's feminine. And you know what people like? Exceptional women doing exceptional things while still behaving as feminine women. How's that, Fast Eddie? Is that going to piss some people off? I don't care, but let's just be honest about it. I adore and commend and applaud exceptional women doing exceptional things. I also adore it when exceptional women do exceptional things and still act like women. How's that? Is that gonna cause me to get some hate tweets this morning?
You're gonna get Harrison Butker, man. That's it. Although
I don't like butch. You know what? I don't like butch women. I like butch women. Don't impress me. Women behaving as though they're men or trying to be men doesn't impress me any more than men pretending to be women impresses me. And the NBA, women's NBA, as far as I'm concerned, is full of a bunch of women pretending to be men and behaving as men. They're not interesting to me. I don't want to. I'm not interested in watching Orange is the New Black play basketball. Sorry.
I know what you mean. Like, I understand. Yeah.
Does that? Hey. So along comes Caitlyn Clark, and she's just a regular woman. She's a regular lady. I think she likes being a woman. I don't know her personal life, but everything about her just says she's a wholesome, accomplished, talented woman who also likes being a woman and comports herself as a lady on and off the court. And the rest of her colleagues in the WNBA appear like it's yard time in the prison. As far as I'm concerned, that's what I mean, I'm sorry, that's the way they behave. They look like a bunch of goons and thugs to me. So she gets a cheap shot on the court, and her own teammates can't even rally to her side. It looks like petty jealousy, and no one is rushing to get their autographs on the court side before the game or after the game. This is just me observing from the outside, not at all interested or invested in women's basketball whatsoever, or basketball generally. The sport doesn't interest me. That's all. Nothing personal. But here's Bill Maher's take on Caitlyn Clark.
Women's basketball got on my radar, like everybody's, because of Caitlyn Clark. And the other girls in the league are delighted for her success. I'm joking, of course. They fucking hate her, and they've been... Show the tape of her getting body checked. This is a game the other day, and that was pretty deliberate. And look at the other girl on her team coming over. See, if this was men, they defend each other on their same team. I mean, men will fight from two teams, but when somebody checks you on who's on your team, you defend that guy. I'm just saying, men have their bad parts. We're toxic. We're dogs. But only women would do this. Well, women are catty, even the ones on her own team. Matt Barnes, he said, my question and my issue is, where the are her teammates at? I've seen a couple of girls smirk when she's got knocked down, half-assed to pick her up. You guys are supposed to be a family. If your guy's fucking job to have her, it's your guy's fucking job to have her back and have each other's back. Discuss.
Case in point, you mentioned Harrison Butker. Look at how his teammates responded to that. I mean, if you genuinely are a family and you're a team and you're a cohesive team, everybody understands team sports. I think most people who have played at any level of team sports understand if you're a team, the one thing that you all have to do is be locked arm in arm in solidarity with one another, even when the going gets rough, or if one of you gets in some sort of trouble or has a bad game. The team is to rise to the occasion and defend their teammate. And that's almost universally true. And instantly there's trouble when a team doesn't do that, when there's lots of shots and snipes and people going on podcasts and mouthing off about one another. That's how you know a team is unraveling. Well, in this case, you have this isn't just a team, this is a league. Is there a single woman in the WNBA who has applauded her or complimented her or welcomed her or defended her? Is there a single one? Maybe there is, and I don't know because I haven't paid attention to it. But it doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like there's a single coach, player, entity in this sport that's defending her. You talk about being alone in the wilderness, and that's, she's getting an okay paycheck, I guess. And, she got snubbed for the Olympic team pick, which is a laugh. I don't know who picks that team, but they snubbed her too. So she's getting cheap shots. Her team's not helping her. Nobody's helping her. They just extended the middle finger to her for the Olympics. I instantly feel sorry for this woman, and she's not asking for my pity. So all these reprobates in the WNBA are doing is making her a martyr. And she's not the one whining, which is going to make her look even bigger and stronger. Her personality and her legend is only going to grow as they continue to dogpile on her, and she continues to take the high road and say, I got to work harder. It's a shame I wasn't picked for the Olympic team. Gosh, I'd love that, but I wasn't. So it says I've still got some work to do, so I'm going to come back and I'm going to work harder, and I'm going to earn that spot next go-around, she says. While all the rest of us sit out here and go, you got screwed, lady, and we all know it, even if you're not going to say it. And her legend just builds. So these jealous, petty, careful, Chris, women that she calls colleague, they're only making her stronger. They're only building her bigger. Caitlyn Clark is quickly becoming the Trump of women's basketball. So keep it up, ladies. And I use the term loosely. While we're on the subject, Nashville shooter bought guns with federal grant money. You say, what do you mean while we're on the subject? I mean women who think they're men. This lunatic, the 28-year-old transgender woman who shot and killed 6 people, including children, bought her guns with federal grant money. CNN noting that Hale bought a total of 7 guns between October 20 of 2020 and June 6th, 2022, all legally purchased. Took money from an education grant she received to purchase her weapons and pay for training at a local gun range. This comes from Brian Wilson, colleague of mine down there who does afternoons on WTN in Nashville. Hale hid the guns in her family home, and a day after the heinous shooting, her parents said they were unaware. They thought Hale had bought 1 gun in the past, and then they sold that gun. Hale had guns. She took 3 of them with her to carry out the attack. Hale was in possession of an AR-15 military-style rifle in the school. Breitbart News explained Hale carried an AR pistol, a handgun, and a carbine, still shots from security cameras in the school. They go into different kind of weapons she was carrying. According to The Star, a local newspaper whose editor-in-chief is a Breitbart contributor, Hale, a biological female, allegedly wrote, "My penis exists in my head. I swear to God I'm a male." My penis exists in my head. I swear to God I'm a male. I don't know more than what is reported here from Breitbart on what it means that she bought guns with a federal grant. But if it means what I'm thinking it means, how she directly got grant money, I'd love to find out. That's the missing part of this. How did she receive direct grant funds? Why? That's missing from this story. And when we find out that it's because of her mental illness, and I have a very funny feeling that's what we'll find out. And won't that be delicious when you find out the federal government granted her money because of her mental illness? And then she went out and bought guns? I mean, it's a terribly sad story. And then this one from California. This is amazing. The economy, I'm going to save this for Steve tomorrow too, but the economy remains undefeated. Economics remains undefeated. California's fast food restaurants have cut 10,000 jobs since they mandated $20 an hour minimum wage. 10,000 people have lost their jobs in California since the legislature said, let's make minimum wage $20 an hour. This is from the New York Post. The California Business and Industrial Alliance slammed Gavin Newsom for pushing through the law, which went into effect April 1st and was blamed for forcing one beloved taco chain to shutter 48 locations in the state last week. California businesses have been under total attack and total assault for years, said the Alliance. It's just another law that puts business in further jeopardy. Several major chains, including McDonald's, Burger King, and even low-cost favorite In-N-Out Burger, jacked up their prices to offset the higher wages. Many had to cut employee hours, and some have expedited a move to automation. They say nearly 10,000 jobs have been cut across fast food restaurants since Newsom signed this bill into law. You can only raise prices so much, and you're seeing it. People are just not going to pay $20 for a Big Mac. It's not going to happen. Meanwhile, what's Trump doing? He's out there saying, let's stop taxing tips. Now, there's an idea. What if instead of forcing companies to pay more money and raise costs on all of us, what if the federal government does with less revenue and we let people who earn tips keep their tip money and we don't tax it as a federal government, says Trump. That's something he floats out on the campaign stump over the weekend. So which works better? What do you think is going to be more stimulus? People who have lost their jobs because of a $20 minimum wage hike? or people who are allowed to keep their tips and not be taxed on them? Which do you think would work better? Well, I think we already have the answer, don't we, here in the New York Post. Raise people's minimum wage, lose their job. Let people keep their tip money and not tax it and send it off to the federal government. Probably a stimulus, probably a net positive. People more coin in their pocket, more stimulus to the economy. This works every time it's tried. This is not hard to understand. Let people keep more of the money they earn. Great things will happen in the economy. Force companies who employ people to spend more money, get less work, get less productivity, increase costs for everyone. This is as clear as the nose on everyone's face. I don't know that kids are taught this anymore, but they ought to. And that it all happened, this story and Trump's proposal in the same 48-hour window, it's really a remarkable dichotomy. I'm going to frame this for Steve tomorrow and jump into this a little bit. I think this is like a classroom lesson that every kid should be forced to take and understand. Hey, Mike Lindell and My Pillow, you know the name. 20 years they've been singing the jingle on Fox News and on the radio. And it's no secret that Mike and the company have come under a lot of scrutiny and a lot of attack. Big box stores have tossed My Pillow from their stores. Even the online retailers now won't sell My Pillow products. And who does that hurt, really? I mean, yeah, I understand they don't like Mike's position on the election or whatever, but Mike employs hundreds of Americans, hundreds of Minnesotans who make great products. If you know the My Pillow products, I sleep on them every night. So does my dog Dean. They're great products, and he wants to sell them to you at unbelievable prices, by the way, but they're backed with a 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee, and most importantly, again, they're made here in the United States. So it's not something he's asking me to say. It's just something I'd like to remind you of, that a guy who has an opinion, who happens to own a very successful American company and employs a lot of Americans who make great American products that a lot of you have bought and owned or are looking to buy and own. I just want you to know that while he takes it on the chin a lot out there for having the positions he has, he wants to keep his employees busy. He wants to keep the company moving along, and so he's passing on huge, huge savings to you in what he's calling the $25 extravaganza. Getting the word out, I want to invite you to check out this $25 extravaganza today. 2 multi-pack My Pillows, just $25. My Pillow sandals, just $25. I'm looking at the list of these deals right now. 6-pack towel set, just $25. 6-pack of towels, $25. And the My Pillows with the new Giza fabric, just $25. And here's the thing, if you order any or all of this stuff, if you exceed $75 with your order, he ships it to you for free. So free shipping on anything $75 or over. And look, with all those deals and so many more at just $25 a piece, I think you'll be very, very pleased with not just the quality, but the price point and the free shipping. It's MyPillow.com. I hope you'll use the promo code ChrisPodcast. MyPillow.com, ChrisPodcast, to take advantage of all these savings. Get that free shipping over $75. Or call 800-932-5056. Great operators, American-based operators. You can call and say, hey, I'm with you. And hang in there. 800-932-5056. Don't forget the promo code ChrisPodcast. It lets them know you listen, which I appreciate, but more importantly, get you that deal. MyPillow.com or 800-932-5056. Promo code ChrisPodcast. Google has removed Prager U. That shouldn't surprise you. Why? A violation of hate speech policy. Google contacted Prager U to inform its developers that the app underwent a review that found, quote, content or speech asserting that a protected group is inhuman, inferior, or worthy of being hatred. The man's name on the app, Prager U. Who is Dennis Prager? One of the most prominent Jewish broadcasters in the country is being accused of facilitating a platform of hate speech. I mean, really, walk that out. One of the nation's most prominent Jewish broadcasters and authors and scholars is platforming hate speech. Here's where we are, though. According to Prager U, the suspension stems from its recently released documentary on Hamas. Oh, well, of course. You'd hate to think there'd be critical commentary of Hamas floating around out there. Prager U alleged its Dear Infidels, A Warning to America project is the documentary that Google does not want you to see because it is spreading awareness about the significant threat radical Islam poses to our freedom. Google is using Soviet-style tactics and attempting to silence us. According to Google, sharing the stories of a former Palestinian refugee, an Arab Muslim born in Israel, and brave Navy SEALs who witnessed the horrors of Muslim extremism constitutes hate speech, Prager U said in a statement. This is a blatant attempt to silence truth and censor speech. Dennis Prager, not the first time he's had a run-in with the tech giant, suing Google in 2017 for allegedly prioritizing left-leaning videos over those of Prager U. 2 counts ultimately ruled against Prager and in Google's favor. Of course, that's out there in the left-wing, left coast, so, Dennis might try a venue that's more central in the next attempt. The Prager U app remains on the Apple Store app and has a 4.7 out of 5 rating. It falls underneath the education category and features content for children as young as 4. So, again, who are the totalitarians? Who are the fascists? Who are the statists? Trump! Trump's coming! Oh, if Trump gets in, he's going to exact revenge. He's going to jail his political opponents. He's going to throw people off the air. Oh, you mean what's happening right now? Trump is going to continue what's happening right now. That may be the next time you hear someone say Trump is going to jail his political opponents, or Trump is going to de-platform or censor or cancel shows with which he doesn't agree. I would ask that all of us respond simply this way. Oh, you mean he's going to continue the current policy in place? Literally, that's all you have to say in response to that. So he's just going to continue what we're living now. What do you mean? And then you explain the Prager U story, or you explain Steve Bannon, or you explain Peter Navarro, or you explain raiding a former president's home. Just as an appetizer. We can go deeper, of course, but that's a nice surface way to have a conversation with a leftist the next time they shout, if Trump wins, it'll be Revenge City, and we're all going to pay the price. We're all paying the price now. I told you Trump has raised millions of dollars. Trump fundraiser has tremendous turnout, surpassed goal. Kraft Ventures co-founder David Sachs joined Kudlow heading into the weekend, telling Larry Kudlow that the fundraiser he and another Silicon venture capitalist recently held had a tremendous turnout. The question was whether we could raise $5 million, and that was the goal because the Bay Area, as you know, is sort of a liberal bastion, so we thought that $5 million might be a big lift. Indeed, the fundraiser, hosted by someone whose name I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce, ultimately wound up bringing the Republican presidential candidate quite a bit more than that, $12 million. Folks, he's raising money like a crazed man. The Trump campaign is raising boatloads of money, and that's, people, I got this question again at church yesterday, people pulling me aside, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not despairing about it, for heaven's sakes. I mean, look at the money he's raising alone in small donors, too. It's not big billionaires or something. It's people sending in $5, $10, $15. He's raising millions of dollars. It's epic. And not just that. It's not just that Biden's unpopular or that Trump is gaining in popularity. It's that people continue to struggle out there as well. Don't forget that. Don't forget, this is not just a horse race between two men. This is about the state of people's personal lives and where do they find themselves at this hour. And a new survey shows the percentage of Americans living paycheck to paycheck does not bode well for Biden. This from Town Hall. News Nation Decision Desk survey released late last week shows more bad news for Biden on the economic front. According to the poll, 58% of registered voters say they're living paycheck to paycheck. 58% of registered voters. That doesn't mean everybody that's likely to vote, but that's stunning. Almost 60% of registered voters are living paycheck to paycheck, meaning if they had a $1,000 emergency, they couldn't cover it. 60% of registered voters? Gulp. So you ask me, how's Trump doing? I don't know. How's the country doing? That's not good. Trump posing a real threat to Biden in Virginia. Whoa. Biden's hold on Virginia appears to be slipping, spelling trouble for Democrats who felt confident about their standing in the state. Roanoke College survey showing Biden and former President Trump tied in Virginia 42% each. And remember, again, what I just said, that vulnerable Democrats in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, for instance, what about Bob Casey? They don't want to talk about Trump. They don't want to talk about Trump's convictions. They don't want to talk about Trump in jail. Don't talk to me about Trump. So what are you going to talk about? That roaring economy I just mentioned? You know, we're in Pride Month. I think I mentioned this last week. It's hilarious. Biden is having trouble locking down the LGBTQ crowd. Is that not amazing? The Biden campaign said last week they will focus heavily on Pride Month events across the country to lock down support for the LGBT community. Lock it down? Fast Eddie? I thought we were told that the LGBTQ crowd was a lock for the Democrats. Where else are they going to go? Who else would they look at? Biden's trying to lock them down? Is that news to you?
Absolutely. No, I thought anybody in the Rainbow Brigade is automatically a Democrat. That's how I understood it.
Apparently that's changed. Margaret Brennan over at CBS, stunned at a new poll that says, we're not real fond of people breaking into the country and we want something done about it. This really upsets Margaret. Take a listen.
President Biden did issue an executive order this past week. It authorizes U.S. officials to deport large numbers of migrants without processing asylum claims until the border crossings number dips below 1,500. So it's essentially suspending some of the asylum processing. Trump's been perceived as stronger on the border. Does this change anything?
No, Trump still is. More people think that Donald Trump's policies would stop or slow border crossings more than Biden's. Having said that, there is widespread support when we test in general terms for what President Biden just did. He gets 7 in 10 support on that. It's overwhelming among Republicans. It's also strong among Democrats. Look, context there. People have said they think that the border is in crisis for a long time. Having said that, you know, we have a lot of the campaign rhetoric speaking of what people say they would do. You've seen the Trump campaign talking about mass deportations. We tested that in a general way in principle. Would you support a new government program that would deport all people living in the U.S. illegally? And that finds majority favor. That finds 6 in 10. It's strongest among folks who are MAGA. It's strongest among Trump supporters, but also from some Democrats as well. And I think that that speaks to the general idea, not just that people see the border as a crisis, but also where we are in the campaign, where a lot of very dramatic or new proposals out there are finding favor.
No.
To unpack that a bit, because this 62% of Americans favor deporting all undocumented immigrants. So Homeland Security says that President Biden has already deported or repatriated more people in the past year than any year since 2010. And then, depending on the details of what's talked about on the campaign trail, some of what Mr. Trump talks about could be illegal. It doesn't seem practical in some sense to round up children.
Oh, shut up. All right, enough. I don't need to hear anymore. She can't deal with the fact that this guy even said Democrats want illegals deported. She can't deal with it. Well, but the children, and isn't that mean? And really, let's think about let's unpack that. Margaret wants to unpack a stat that she doesn't like. Let's unpack that. Who are the bigots? Who are the 62% bigots that said they want all illegals deported? All illegals deported? Yes, including some Democrats. Even what the? I'm Margaret Brennan. Listen to me. Lean in here. She's going to lecture you about how bad you should feel for having that answer. Oh, Margaret, bless your heart. I love that they use MAGA as a pejorative still. I think that's so funny. Think about that for a minute. MAGA Republicans. MAGA. What is it? Make America great again. Make America great again. Ooh, what a nasty term that is. What a radical term. It's like being called a nationalist. I don't object to being called a MAGA Republican. I don't object to be calling a nationalist. I'm both. Call me a nationalist. Call me a nationalist MAGA. Fine, whatever. Call me all the names you want. The bottom line is the country's being destroyed from within, and we want it fixed, Margaret. Remember I told you about John Fetterman, and that it took me a little bit to figure out exactly what was going on. John Fetterman is getting a lot of attention these days. A lot of conservatives are loving up to John Fetterman and telling you why this is a different kind of Democrat. He's talking more sensibly than any Democrat has in years and years. He's my kind of Democrat. Now, this is the way the Democrats used to be. Seeing a lot of conservatives falling head over heels with the new John Fetterman. And, of course, old John is playing this smart. What's he saying? Hey, I've always been this John Fetterman. I've never not been this John Fetterman. Well, it's pretty interesting because those of us who were around for his Senate run remember it distinctly different. Granted, he had a massive stroke where he hid most of the campaign. And so it is fair and true to say that outside groups kind of foisted their political ambitions and wishes on him. That's probably fair. I think a lot of us were sort of aware that he was being used as a vehicle and a vessel by, who knows, that lunatic Morticia wife of his, and lots of progressive groups, and maybe he just winked at them and said, yeah, I'll do your bidding. I don't know. What do you suppose it is? That he's really this guy, and because of his stroke, they just painted him as this super wacko progressive? I mean, I remember he was hanging pot flags out his window in Harrisburg when he was lieutenant governor. He claims he's not a progressive. He claims he's never been a progressive. Well, he was certainly comfortable with being painted as a progressive during the Senate campaign, was he not, Fast Eddie?
Yes, no, he was the progressive. That's why he didn't win the first time in, what was it, Toomey versus, Katie McGinty.
Yeah.
She's the one who won. He came in third because even the Democrats at that time said he was way too radical to put anywhere close to that kind of power.
Mm-hmm. So now he's on the I Was Never Radical tour. And there are a lot of people that are really embracing him because of it. Of course, if you're a regular listener to this show, you understand what this is. This is John Fetterman rewriting himself as the centrist so that he's got a few years to do this, but he's laying the groundwork for Pennsylvanians down the road to say, hey, I like that guy. He wears Carhartt stuff, and he talks about jobs, and he's not in lockstep with those radical Democrats. And he's not a Republican either. He's just a guy like me. This is, now this is the thing about being in the Senate. Now that you have a 6-year run, he's in, we're 2 years into his 6-year run. He's got another 4 years. He's in the process of building a career for himself, and it's working. To his credit, it's quite smart. You understand what he's doing? He's building a new storyline for himself. I was never progressive. I was always a center guy. I was always a populist. I'm basically Trump without the hair. That's always who I've been. And if my party's out of step, why, I'm going to step up to them. And I'm also going to fight those dastardly Republicans when they get it wrong. But don't pigeonhole me with any party. I'm just a fella who wears hard-working clothes. Even though I'm a trust fund baby who's never worked an honest day in his life, I dress like a working man, and the idiots buy it. Okay, so I guess because he wears Carhartt, that makes him a blue-collar working class guy. This works on people, Fast Eddie. He's one of the few people that can pull it off because he wears gym shorts to the Senate floor. This makes him one of the folks, I guess. It works.
And he's massive, so
he's a giant
big dude. So
you got to storm the village. Yeah. So I just want you to know that if that's where you are, hey, that John Fetterman's refreshing. I like him. He's not a doctrinaire Democrat. As always, the most important thing is what? It's to watch how he votes. Because when it's all said and done, if he doesn't vote as this centrist that he speaks of, then he's a progressive, just as progressive as we've always known him to be. And he always votes with the progressive wing of the party. Always. Has he ever voted against Democrat Party interests since he's been in the Senate? I mean, if there's one that you can think of, please correct the record and let me know. I don't remember reading a single vote or story where he has stepped out and said, no, I do not stand. Yes, I understand. I've seen him speak up for Israel. He has gone against the AOCs and the squads in verbal jousts, true, but that's just verbal jousting. That's press stuff. That's for consumption for you and me. I'm asking, has he ever cast a meaningful vote that's anti-Democrat Party? Can you think of one? I bet you can't. So with that in mind, Bill Maher speaking with John Fetterman on why he's not a progressive anymore. Thought he never was.
You said, I'm not a progressive, I'm a Democrat. What does that mean? What is that distinction? Because I don't think I've used the word progressive. I think I've said woke. I think there's a big difference between woke, and I know that word triggers a lot of people because it had a great beginning as a meaning, but words migrate, and it went to something else. I think there's a big difference between an old school liberal and a woke person. You say progressive Democrat. How do you describe this?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like I've just say, and I've been saying that for years, actually. I said that, I didn't leave the label. It left me on that.
Right.
And that really, after it happened on October 7th, I really knew that that whole progressive stack would be blasted apart, and there's not going to be any kind of way how the Democrats are going to be able to reply to that kind of, respond to that kind of. And I really decided early on that I believe that was going to be the right side with Israel throughout all of that. And I knew that would going to be Democrats would continue to peel away and kind of walk away from standing with Israel on that. But that's where I decided after.
How do you explain that, if you can, that the people who consider themselves the most liberal have abandoned Israel, which was always a liberal darling, for the people who, a terrorist organization, the people who outwardly say they want a genocide, who outwardly are the one side of this who is against the two-state solution. Somehow they wound up with them. Why do you think that is? And will this split the Democratic Party?
Well, it does because there's an appeal there, and I think you talk about that. Like last week, you really hit with the gender apartheid.
Yes.
And talking about a lot of these issues, and some of the most progressive and left parts of the Democratic Party are standing, for the kind of side that have kinds of organizations like Hamas or these kind of nations that there are no rights for women, and they certainly don't embrace the LGBTQ kinds of lifestyle. And then even in Philadelphia, the Queers for Palestine blocked the Pride parade in Philadelphia, and I never saw that on the bingo card, but it's really
it's good stuff. I mean, look, it's great. He's right. I'm not, don't misunderstand. I'm not picking on him for not being correct. It's good stuff. But how's he vote? This doesn't matter a hill of beans. Going on Bill Maher's show and talking or fighting with the squad in public doesn't matter a hill of beans if he doesn't vote accordingly. Watch how he votes, and I'll come back and say, okay, this guy's the real deal. He's decided to buck his party. Thousands gather outside the White House to protest the war in Gaza. Hundreds of protests. I thought it was thousands. This is from NBC News. A paragraph later, hundreds of protesters held a red banner that stretched around the White House, urging Joe Biden to change his approach to the war in Gaza. Biden, Biden, you can't hide. We are your red line. These chants are getting worse. They rhyme. They're really running out of chants. The intention is to draw a red line where Biden won't draw one when it comes to Israel's genocide in Gaza, and say, we as the people are drawing the red line today to say enough is enough. It's time for an arms embargo. It's time to end this. Well, Israel's attempting to end it by assassinating and slaughtering Hamas wherever they're found. And they're not going to end it until they do so. And everyone understands it. Normal people support it. Bill Maher wondering, how did we get here? What is this about? You really wonder, Bill? It's the same politics that you advocate most of the time. Progressives hate Israel. Progressives hate the United States. They view us in both the same light. We are occupiers. We are infidels. We are nations of ill-gotten means. We have stolen. We have raped. We have pillaged. We occupy land that is not ours. We're villains. White devils, Bill. Don't you understand? That's your side and your party that has been preaching this and teaching this for generations. Where's this come from? Bill scratches his chin. Where's this come from, all this pro-Hamas, anti-Israel hate in my Democrat Party? Bill, it's been right under your nose the entire time. Senator Fetterman, how do you vote? Fetterman goes on to talk about Joe Biden, says Biden is actually the only Democrat who can beat Trump. Now, if that's true, that's an unsettling statement. If that's truly the state of the Democrat Party, Joe Biden is the only Democrat that can beat Trump. Listen to this.
Let's talk a little politics here, because that is your game. Pennsylvania is going to be one of they say, probably it could come down to 3 states. Pennsylvania will definitely be one of them.
I've always said that Pennsylvania picks the president, and there really is no legitimate path for the president if he doesn't win. And I really do believe he will win, actually, because Trump was able to flip Pennsylvania, and that helped deliver his first victory. But Joe Biden carried it in 2020 because he has a really strong connection there to Pennsylvania. Yeah. And I do believe he will again, but it's going to be very close. And that's the same conversation I've been having with Pennsylvania, that it's going to be very close because Trump has a strong connection in Pennsylvania, and it's going to be very competitive and all of that. And I've also been saying that I don't think that whole trial is going to be anything meaningful, with people who've already decided, like, hey, that's my guy. Will never understand why somebody would say, yeah, I love that, or I want more 4 years of that. But I do believe Joe Biden's going to carry Pennsylvania, and he's going to win.
Well, I mean, okay, but you'll note what John Fetterman didn't do. Again, this is back to this reoccurring theme. I shared with you the story that Democrats aren't bashing Trump. And you'll note that other than Fetterman saying something like, well, I doubt Americans are going to want 4 more years of Trump on trial or whatever, ha, ha, ha. Other than that, he really didn't. He acknowledged that there is a massively strong connection with Donald Trump, and he doesn't believe this trial business is going to move the needle even a little bit. But having said all that, I'm very confident Biden will win Pennsylvania, and the seals clap, because they weren't sure where he was going with that. That wasn't the traditional bash Trump riff. It's getting very uncomfortable for leftists. They're used to going to these shows and being fed their regular chum of isn't Biden great and isn't Trump awful. And now Democrats are going on these national shows going, the Ragin' Cajun is back as well. Now, Barry, how about how old Joe Biden is? Joe Biden, a very old guy. Young people don't care much for him. I don't like about that. Oh, he's wound again. Listen.
But the 90s were then, and this is where we are now. And, we have a choice to make in November. And it isn't a choice that I was crazy about. I actually was very public that I thought that President Biden should not run for re-election. But he did, and it's him and Trump, and that's where I am. And
if anything, if President Biden decides not to run or is ill and can't run, where does the Democratic Party go?
There's so much talent, and a lot of it is young and vigorous and energetic. I think Hakeem Jeffers is doing a great job, by the way, as leader, much more than before. But I thought that President Biden should consider not running for the election, but that's not the choice that he made. And so I gotta live in the world that I've got to live in, not the world I wanted to live in.
Oh, poor James. He's resigned to the fact I gotta live in the world I've been given. Not the world I want to live in. I gotta live in the world I've been given. And Joe Biden. And I don't want Joe Biden. I've been pretty clear about that. But Joe Biden's what I've been given, so I gotta live with it. Ringing endorsement from John Fetterman and James Carville this weekend. Oh, I think Joe Biden will probably win Pennsylvania. Sure, I guess. Well, he's who I've been handed. I don't know. I suppose young people aren't particularly excited. I didn't really want him. There's a lot of young talent out there. I'm not really sure why we're here, but here we are. And so I guess, he'll win. Wow. Okay. Again, not being cocky, not being overly confident here. It's going to take work. It's going to take focus. It's going to take organization. It's certainly going to take turnout. It's going to take all hands on deck and everybody watching. It's not going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to be a walk in the park. But these are not people excited about the future.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.